Hi there, I'm Dr. Noelle Nelson, and it's my pleasure to share a few thoughts with you today, some uplifting, inspiring, and practical tips to help you find greater happiness and success in your life. Today's topic? Say no to verbal abuse. Most of us recognize physical abuse for what it is: hurtful, demeaning, and totally inappropriate. Verbal abuse is less easily recognized for what it is: emotional violence. Yet verbal abuse is far more common and, in its own way, doubly dangerous. Why? Because not only does verbal abuse hurt in and of itself, but verbal abuse is almost always the precursor to physical abuse. Yep, you heard that right. Thus, learning to deal with verbal abuse in an appropriate and positive way is very important. Verbal abuse can be simply defined as any time someone says something to you which discounts you, denies your feelings, or in some way devalues you. I think of it as the 3 Ds. Discounting is failing to take into account someone else's reality. For example, you say, "Boy, am I bushed." They say, "Well, you couldn't be. You didn't even come in until 10 today." Denial of feelings is negating how someone feels. You say, for example, "Oh gosh, I'm really depressed about that." And they say, "Oh, cheer up. It's really not that bad." Devaluing is treating a person in any way that takes away from their dignity as a human being. Name-calling, or ripping into people by yelling and screaming, obviously if it's not an emergency situation, of course, those are devaluing behaviors. Because verbal abuse is not as obviously hurtful as physical abuse, we often let it slip by, not realizing its cumulative damaging effects. We say to ourselves things like, "I'm too sensitive," or we assume that the other person must be right and we're somehow defective human beings and deserve the hurt. This is a terrible thing to do to ourselves. Instead, deal with the abuse by drawing boundaries, setting limits, and standing up for yourself. Let's take these one by one. Discounting. You say, for example, "Boy, am I bushed." They say, "Well, you couldn't be. You didn't even come in until 10 today." You say, now drawing a boundary between your experience and their interpretation of your experience, "The time I came in today has nothing to do with my fatigue." And then you stand up for yourself by saying, "I'm really tired." Secondly, denial of feelings. You say, for example, "I'm really depressed about that." And they say, "Oh, cheer up. It's really not that bad." Now, you say, drawing a boundary between your experience and their interpretation of it, "Whether it's all that bad or not has nothing to do with it." And then you go on to standing up for yourself. "I'm really depressed about it." You see, when you handle discounting and denial in this way, people will generally change their approach and begin respecting your reality, your feelings. However, if they persist in discounting or denying, even after you've repeated your stance once or twice, stop sharing your thoughts and feelings with these people. They truly do not deserve it. Thirdly, devaluing. So, for example, someone is yelling and screaming at you, or calling you names. You say, standing up for yourself, "I will not be yelled at or talked to in this way," and then set clear limits. "I will listen to you or discuss this when you calm down," and then leave. Let the person know you are temporarily leaving, but leave. It is not okay to let yourself be abused. You will feel your self-esteem rise in direct proportion to how you stand up for yourself in the face of discounting, denial, and devaluing. You are a worthwhile human being. Don't let anyone ever treat you less than that. Now, having said that, a word of caution. If you are in a situation where you fear someone might become physically abusive if you stand up for yourself, do not use these techniques. I repeat, if you feel any fear that someone might become physically abusive if you stand up for yourself, do not use these techniques. Seek professional help immediately. And hopefully it will not come to that. Thank you for listening to Up. And check out my new book, I Survived COVID-19, What Now? Finding Happiness and Success in a Post-COVID World, if you'd like more uplifting, inspiring, practical tips and techniques, as well as my website, noelnelson.com. Or take a look at my Meet the Amazings Facebook page. Until next time, be well and take care.